Hey coin collectors and treasure hunters, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most iconic coins in American history, the Lincoln Wheat Penny. Stick around because we're counting down the top 7 most valuable and historic wheat pennies you could have in your pocket change. First up, so let's dig into its history, design, mintage, and of course, its current value, especially if you have one in fine condition. The 1935 Lincoln Wheat Penny was minted during the Great Depression, a time when every cent counted. Designed by Victor David Brenner, this penny features the iconic portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse. It's worth noting that Lincoln was the first actual person to be featured on a U.S. circulating coin, and his portrait on the penny debuted in 1909, the centennial of his birth. By 1935, the Lincoln design had already been circulating for over 25 years, but it remained, and still remains, a powerful symbol of American history and values. On the reverse of the coin, you'll find the words 1 cent and United States of America surrounded by 2 wheat stalks. This wheat ears design was used from 1909 to 1958, which is why these coins are commonly referred to as wheat pennies. Above the denomination is the Latin motto, E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one. This timeless design represents a simpler era in American coinage and continues to be loved by collectors around the world. In 1935, over 245 million Lincoln wheat pennies were minted at the Philadelphia Mint, which did not use a mint mark. This means that all 1935 pennies without a mint mark come from Philadelphia. Because of the high mintage, the coin is not considered rare, but its historical significance and age still make it desirable to collectors. Now let's talk about condition and value. In coin collecting, condition is everything. Coins are graded on a scale ranging from poor, P1, all the way to mint state, MS70. A coin in fine condition, which is abbreviated as F12, shows moderate wear. On a 1935 penny in fine condition, you'll still be able to clearly see Lincoln's profile and some of the details in his hair and beard. On the reverse, the wheat stalks will be worn but still visible. So, how much is a 1935 wheat penny in fine condition worth today? As of now, the value ranges from about 25 cents to 50 cents for most circulated examples in fine condition. That may not seem like a lot, but remember, that's 25 to 50 times its original face value. And for a coin that's almost 90 years old, it's a fun and affordable piece of history to add to your collection. If you're lucky enough to find a 1935 penny in extremely fine or uncirculated condition, the value goes up significantly. Uncirculated examples, especially those with red luster, can sell for $5 to $20 or more, depending on quality and eye appeal. While the 1935 penny doesn't have major varieties like doubled dies or missing mint marks, collectors still seek high-grade specimens and enjoy having a piece of Great Depression-era history in their albums. To sum it up, the 1935 Lincoln Wheat penny may be common in terms of mintage, but it's far from ordinary. It tells the story of a struggling nation, a president who stood for unity, and a coin that survived nearly a century of use and handling. Whether it's worth a quarter or a few dollars, this coin carries a legacy that no modern cent can match. Next up, this small copper coin might look ordinary at first glance, but it's packed with history, and depending on its condition and mint mark, it could be worth more than just 1 cent. So if you found one of these in your change or inherited a collection, stick around, because this is everything you need to know about the 1930 wheat penny. Let's begin with the design. The obverse, or front side, of the coin features the familiar image of President Abraham Lincoln, created by sculptor Victor David Brenner. This design was introduced back in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. It was a revolutionary moment in U.S. coinage, the first time an actual person appeared on circulating American money. Above Lincoln's head is the motto, "In God We Trust," while the word liberty appears to his left, and the date 1930 is on the right. On the reverse side, we see the classic wheat penny design. The words 1 cent and United States of America are boldly displayed in the center, framed on both sides by two stylized wheat stalks. This agricultural imagery gave the coin its nickname, the wheat penny. The Latin phrase, a pluribus unum, meaning, out of many one, is inscribed at the top. This reverse design was in use from 1909 until 1958, after which it was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial. Now let's talk about mintage. In 1930, there were 3 mints producing the Lincoln wheat penny: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 157 million coins which do not have a mint mark. The Denver Mint struck around 40 million, and you can identify these by the small D beneath the date. Meanwhile, the San Francisco Mint produced roughly 24 million, marked by an S under the date. While none of these mintages are particularly low, the San Francisco version is generally considered a bit more desirable among collectors due to its smaller number. As for metal content, like other wheat pennies of the era, the 1930 coin is made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. Each coin weighs about 3.11 grams. Because of its high copper content, even damaged wheat pennies have some melt value. Though you should never melt collectible coins, they're often worth more intact. So, what about value? If you have a 1930 Lincoln wheat penny in fine or circulated condition, it's generally worth between 10 to 50 cents, depending on the mint mark and overall wear. Coins from Denver and San Francisco tend to fetch slightly higher prices. In very fine or extremely fine condition, values can rise to $1 or $2. And if you're lucky enough to own an uncirculated 1930 penny with a strong strike and original luster, it could be worth anywhere from $10 to over $50, especially if it's graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC. And here's something to remember. Condition is everything in coin collecting. A 1930 penny pulled from circulation may not seem impressive at first, but even small scratches, dings, or discoloration can affect its grade and value. On the other hand, coins stored properly in albums or holders can preserve their appeal and increase in desirability over time. While the 1930 wheat penny isn't considered a rare coin, it remains a favorite among collectors for its historical context. Think about it. This penny was minted during the early years of the Great Depression. It was part of a struggling economy passed through the hands of Americans facing real hardship. Holding one today connects us to that chapter in history, a time when every cent was treasured. Next up, the 1944 D Lincoln wheat penny. Even if it's worn and has seen a lot of circulation, this little copper coin still tells an important story from American history, and depending on a few details, it may still be worth more than its face value. So let's break down the history, the design, and what a 1944 D wheat penny in well-worn condition is actually worth today. The 1944 D penny was minted in Denver, which is what the small d under the date stands for. This was during the final years of World War II, and like many things at the time, U.S. coinage was affected by the war effort. In fact, just 1 year earlier in 1943, pennies were made of steel coated in zinc instead of copper, because copper was being used for military supplies like shell casings and communications wire. But by 1944, copper was back, although the composition was slightly different. Most 1944 pennies, including those from Denver, were made using recycled shell casings, creating what collectors call shell case cents. The obverse of the I coin features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. This design was introduced in 1909 and quickly became a staple of American coinage. The reverse features 2 wheat stalks surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America, with the Latin motto A pluribus unum at the top. It's a simple, powerful design that lasted until 1958. Now, let's talk about mintage. The Denver Mint produced over 430 million Lincoln wheat pennies in 1944, making it one of the most common issues in the entire wheat penny series. Because of that high mintage and the fact that these coins were used daily, many 1944D pennies found today are heavily worn from years of circulation. So what's it worth? If your 1944D wheat penny is in worn or heavily circulated condition, meaning the fine details on Lincoln's face and the wheat stalks are faded or smoothed down, it's typically worth between 3 to 10 cents to collectors. That's not a huge amount, but it's still 3 to 10 times its face value, and that's pretty cool for a coin that's 80 years old. Now, if it were in better condition, say extra fine or uncirculated, the value could go up to a few dollars, or more. But in a well-worn state, it's a common but historical piece. Of course, always look closely. If your coin has a strange error, like a double die, off-center strike, or clipped planchet, those types of mistakes can make even a common 1944D penny far more valuable. Some error varieties can sell for $50 or even hundreds of dollars, depending on rarity and collector demand. So to wrap it all up, the 1944D wheat penny in worn condition is generally not rare, but it's still a fascinating reminder of wartime, America, and a great starter coin for new collectors. It may not buy you much today, but its real value is in the history it carries. If you have one, hold on to it. It's a small piece of a much bigger story. Next up, the 1946 Lincoln wheat penny was minted just after the end of World War II. America was transitioning from a wartime economy to a peacetime one, and millions of servicemen and women were returning home. The country was filled with both hope and uncertainty, and the coins of the time reflect that historical moment. In fact, the 1946 penny was the first full year back to normal copper coinage after the temporary use of steel in 1943 and shell casing cents in 1944 and 1945. The obverse of the 1946 penny features the same iconic portrait of President Abraham Lincoln that was introduced in 1909. Designed by Victor David Brenner, this image has remained on the penny ever since. Above Lincoln's head are the words, "In God We Trust." To the left, we see liberty, and to the right, the date, 1946. Some versions may have a small mint mark beneath the date, either a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. But if there's no mint mark at all, that means it was minted in Philadelphia. On the reverse side is the classic wheat ears design, with two stylized stalks of wheat curving along the left and right edges of the coin. In the center are the bold words, 1 cent and United States of America, and just above them, the Latin motto, E pluribus unum, which means, out of many, one. This simple but powerful design represents the agricultural strength and unity of the nation. Now let's talk mintage. In 1946, the U.S. Mint produced an enormous number of these coins, over 1 billion across the 3 mint locations. That includes more than 991 million from Philadelphia, around 315 million from Denver, and nearly 199 million from San Francisco. Because so many were made, and because they weren't made of precious metal, the 1946 wheat penny is considered common, even after all these decades. But what about value? If you have a 1946 Lincoln wheat penny in fine condition, meaning it shows moderate wear but all major details are still visible, the value is modest, but it's still worth more than face value. In today's market, a 1946 wheat penny in fine condition usually sells for around 10 to 15 cents. If it has a D or S mint mark, that might nudge the value slightly higher, especially for collectors who are trying to complete a full set. In uncirculated mint state condition, prices can go up to several dollars, and even more if graded by a professional service. Still, even a worn or fine condition 1946 wheat penny has value beyond just money. It's a genuine piece of post-war American history. It represents a nation healing from global conflict, rebuilding its economy, and moving toward the modern age. Holding this coin is like holding a tiny time capsule. It passed through the hands of workers, veterans, families, and everyday Americans at a pivotal moment in the 20th century. So if you have a 1946 Lincoln wheat penny in fine condition, hang on to it, not just for its small collector's value, but for the story it tells. And who knows, it could be the missing piece in someone's collection, or the spark that launches your own interest in coin collecting. Next up, the 1944 Lincoln wheat penny, specifically one in full red uncirculated condition. While millions of these pennies were minted, not all of them have survived in pristine original red color. So what makes this coin special, and how much is it worth today? Let's take a closer look. The 1944 wheat penny was minted during a crucial moment in history, the final years of World War II. In 1943, just a year earlier, the U.S. Mint had switched to zinc-coated steel pennies to conserve copper for the war effort. Those 1943 steel cents are very recognizable and highly collectible in their own right. But in 1944, the Mint resumed using copper to strike cents, except they didn't use newly mined metal. Instead, they melted down leftover brass shell casings from the military to produce what collectors call shell case cents. These coins have a distinctive golden red tone when freshly struck, and that leads us to today's star, the full red 1944 penny. In terms of design, the coin features President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, or front side, a design created by Victor David Brenner in 1909 to mark Lincoln's 100th birthday. You'll see "In God We Trust" above Lincoln, liberty to his left, and the date 1944 to his right. On the reverse is the classic wheat ears design, with 1 cent and United States of America in the center, framed by 2 stylized wheat stalks. Above it all is the Latin motto, E pluribus unum, which means out of many, one. Now let's talk about value. The 1944 Lincoln cent was minted in huge quantities, over 1.4 billion coins across all 3 mints, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. So in average circulated condition, a 1944 penny is usually worth just a few cents to perhaps $1 or $2. But when a coin has been preserved in mint state condition with full red luster, that's when collectors get excited. In coin grading, full red means the coin still retains 95% or more of its original red copper color, that bright reddish tone you see when a penny is freshly minted. Most pennies darken over time to a brown or red-brown color due to oxidation. But if a 1944 wheat penny is uncirculated and graded MS-65 or higher by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC, and it still has that rich red hue, its value can jump significantly. A 1944 full red Lincoln wheat penny graded MS-65 can be worth between $20 and $50. In MS-66, values can go up to $100 or more, and Ultra Gem examples graded MS-67 with full red color have sold for $200 to $500 or more, especially if the coin has exceptional strike and eye appeal. One key thing to watch out for is that the coin must be certified as red, not red-brown or brown, and must be in a high uncirculated grade. Only a small percentage of 1944 cents have survived in that condition, which makes them more desirable to serious collectors who specialize in wheat pennies or mint state copper coins. So to sum it up, the 1944 Lincoln wheat penny is a coin that nearly every collector will come across, but finding one in full red mint state condition is a much rarer achievement. It connects us to a critical time in American history, when even small coins played a part in the nation's wartime and post-war recovery. And if you're lucky enough to own one of these brilliant red beauties in top condition, you might just be holding a small but valuable piece of American heritage. Next up, the 1949 Lincoln wheat penny. Whether you've just pulled one out of an old coin jar, inherited it in a collection, or found it in your pocket change, you might be wondering, Is this little copper coin worth anything? And what's the story behind it? Well, stick around because in this video we'll explore the background, design, mintage details, and current value of the 1949 wheat penny, especially in fine circulated condition. Let's start with the historical context. The year 1949 was a time of post-war growth and rebuilding. World War II had ended just a few years earlier, and the United States was entering a new era of economic expansion and industrial development. People were buying cars, moving to the suburbs, and starting families. While it might have seemed like just a penny to most Americans at the time, coins like the 1949 tell us a lot about the era in which they were made. In those days, 1 cent had more purchasing power than today, enough to buy a stick of gum, a handful of candy, or even start a savings habit in a child's piggy bank. Now, the S mint mark on the 1949 penny tells us it was struck at the San Francisco Mint. In that year, San Francisco produced about 64,290,000 wheat pennies, far fewer than the Philadelphia and Denver mints. That makes the 1949 a little more desirable to collectors compared to its sister coins from other mints, especially when found in better condition. The coin features the same classic design introduced in 1909 by Victor David Brenner. On the obverse, or front, we have a right-facing portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, surrounded by the motto, "In God We Trust," above, the word liberty to the left, and the date 1949 to the right, followed by the small S mint mark just below the date. It's a clean, dignified design that has become one of the most familiar in American coinage. On the reverse, you'll see the bold words 1 cent and United States of America in the center, framed by 2 stalks of wheat, one on each side. This wheat ears design was used from 1909 until 1958 and gives the Lincoln cents from that era their popular nickname, wheat pennies. At the top of the reverse is the Latin motto, E pluribus unum, which means, out of many, one. Now let's talk about the condition. A 1949 penny in fine condition means it has some noticeable wear from circulation, but all the major details are still clearly visible. Lincoln's features are worn but recognizable, and the wheat stalks on the back still show most of their lines, even if they're a bit smoothed out. It's not uncirculated or mint state, but it's still a solid collectible for beginners and budget-conscious collectors. So what's it worth today? In fine condition, the 1949 Lincoln wheat penny is generally worth around 10 to 20 cents, more than face value, but still relatively affordable. If it's in very fine or extremely fine condition, the value might rise slightly. Higher grade, examples such as uncirculated red specimens, can fetch several dollars or more from serious collectors. But even a worn coin has value, not just as a collectible, but as a small piece of American history. It's also worth checking for rare varieties or mint errors, which can happen with any coin. While the 1949 isn't known for major errors, sometimes coins are struck off-center, double die, or feature-clipped planchets. These types of errors can significantly increase the value depending on their rarity and demand. So if you have a 1949 wheat penny in fine condition, it may not make you rich, but it's a worthy addition to any wheat penny collection. And as time goes on and fewer of these coins remain in good condition, their value could slowly increase. More importantly, though, each coin like this is a miniature time capsule, linking us to a post-war America full of change, optimism, and growth. Next up, if you've got a 1954 penny in fine condition, you might be wondering how much it's worth and what story it tells. So let's dive into the history, design, and value of this classic American coin. The 1954 wheat penny was struck during the heart of the 1950s, a time when the U.S. was booming economically, suburban neighborhoods were growing, and coins like this one were a part of everyday life. People used wheat pennies constantly, for bus rides, candy, newspapers, and even payphones. It was a coin most Americans didn't think twice about, yet today it holds historic and collectible value. This penny features the iconic image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, or front of the coin, designed by Victor David Brenner. That design was first introduced in 1909 to mark Lincoln's 100th birthday and has remained in use ever since. On the front, you'll see "In God We Trust" along the top edge, the word "Liberty" to the left of Lincoln's portrait, and the year 1954 on the right side. The reverse side of the coin is just as recognizable, with two wheat stalks curving inward to frame the inscriptions "1 cent" and "United States of America." Above that is the Latin phrase "E pluribus unum," meaning "out of many, one." This reverse design gives the wheat penny its nickname and was in use from 1909 through 1958. Now, when it comes to minting, over 71 million Lincoln cents were struck at the Philadelphia Mint in 1954. These coins do not carry a mint mark. There were also millions more produced in Denver and San Francisco that year, which do bear a D or S mint mark beneath the date. But today, we're focusing on the plain 1954 penny from Philadelphia in fine condition, meaning it has moderate wear but all the major details are still visible. As for value, a 1954 Lincoln wheat penny in fine condition isn't rare, but it's still worth more than face value to collectors who are building complete date and mint sets. On average, you can expect a 1954 penny in fine condition to be worth about 5 to 10 cents. That might not seem like a lot, but for those who enjoy collecting, especially young or beginner numismatists, it's a fun and affordable way to explore history. Now, if you happen to have a 1954 penny in uncirculated or mint state condition, especially one with its original red color and strong details, the value can go up significantly, often ranging from a few dollars to even $20 or more depending on the grade. But in circulated fine condition, it's mainly appreciated for its historical charm rather than its rarity. So there you have it, the 1954 Lincoln wheat penny. It's a coin that's easy to find, affordable to collect, and packed with history. From a unique time in American life. If you've got one in your collection, hold on to it as a piece of the past. And who knows, it might just inspire you to dig deeper into the world of coin collecting.